Galaxy S. Start with the one everyone actually recognizes, the S series. This is Samsung's main flagship line, and it's been around since 2010, when the original Galaxy S basically told the world, hey, Android phones can be good now, actually. Before that, Android phones mostly looked like Nokia had a rough weekend. The Galaxy S changed that conversation completely. Every year since, the S series gets the newest chip, the sharpest screen, and first access to whatever Samsung's decided to call AI that particular year. In 2026, the lineup is S26, S26 Plus, and S26 Ultra. Base, bigger battery, and I will annotate PDFs with stylus while riding the subway, respectively. The Ultra is the one with huge camera bump, the periscope zoom lens, and the S Pen tucked into the bottom edge. And it's genuinely the phone Samsung's design everything else in the lineup ground. Everyone else is just getting the leftovers nicely packaged. Here's my take. If you keep a phone for 4 year plus and actually use the camera modes beyond point and tap, the S series, specifically the Ultra one, is your series. It's expensive, north of $1,000 once you configure it properly, but at least you know exactly what you are paying for. It's not a phone that trying to convince you of anything. It just quietly does the most. And here is a pattern worth pointing out while we are here, because you will notice it everywhere else on this list too. The word Ultra. Samsung slaps Ultra onto the top model of basically every series now. S Ultra, and increasingly the branding language bleeds into how people talk about the top tier across the board. It becomes the shorthand for the expensive one. The same for Pro Max that works for Apple. Marketing teams love a good suffix. Galaxy Z, fold and flip. Next, the one that makes your uncle says, phones can fold now? Like it's still 2019. The Z series is Samsung foldables, and it splits into two completely different shapes, doing two completely different jobs, which honestly still confuses people who assume Z just mean one weird foldable phone. The Z Fold opens up into something closer to a mini tablet. If you want a bigger screen for work, running two apps side by side, or reading without holding your phone 6 inches from your face, the Z Flip folds the other way, like a compact mirror from 2004. And it's really just a regular flagship phone that folds down small enough to disappear into a jacket pocket. And it looks fantastic doing it. And in my honest opinion, the Flip has aged into the more sensible buy of the two. It sells the fantasy of a smaller phone without asking you to sacrifice much. The Fold, on the other hand, is still a little bit, look what I can do, and a little less. This is obviously better than a normal phone. Watch here the same underlying problem. Foldables are still catching up to slab phones on battery life and camera consistency, because there is only so much room you can cram into a hinge before something has to give. Oh yeah, Samsung foldable story didn't start clean. First one was not even called a Z. It was just a Galaxy Fold. Back in 2019, and the launch review units famously started breaking within days. Turns out a layer on the screen that reviewers assumed was a regular screen protector that was actually part of the display itself, and peeling it off wrecked the panel. Samsung had to delay the entire global release to fix it. Genuinely one of the most embarrassing tech launches of the last decade. Galaxy A, now the one that probably in more pockets worldwide than the S series ever will be. Galaxy A, this is the mid-range line. Think A17, A26, A37, A57, and it exists to answer one very reasonable question. What if I just want a decent phone without remortgaging anything? You get 5G, a perfectly fine camera that's good enough for Instagram and bad enough that you will never accidentally become a wedding photographer, and a battery that survives your commute without you thinking about it. Starting prices comfortably around $300. What you don't get is the flashy stuff. No S Pen, no flagship chip, and Samsung is noticeably stinkier with software update timelines here compared to the S and Z lines. 4 years of the OS updates instead of 7 roughly. It's the phone I would tell a family member to buy if they just asked which Samsung should I get, without any follow-up questions and without wanting a whole conversation about it. Reliable, unglamorous, does the job. The Honda Civic of smartphones, basically. Nobody's dream phone, but everybody's actual daily driver. Galaxy Note. Big detour because you will still see this name floating around second-hand listings. And honestly, it deserves its own segment because the story here is wild. The Galaxy Note was its own series, bigger screen, S Pen built directly into the body, aimed at people who wanted their phone to double as a notepad. It ran from 2011 all the way to the Note 20 in 2020. And somewhere in the middle of that run, like in 2016, the Note 7 happened. If you were not paying attention to tech news back then, the Note 7 had a battery defect so severe that units were catching fire, some literally on airplanes, and to the point where airlines banned it from flights entirely, and Samsung had to recall the phone globally twice because the safe replacement units had the same problem, and it's one of the biggest product recalls in the consumer electronic history. Full stop. Samsung survived it clearly since you are watching a video about their current 10th generation plus lineup, but it's genuinely remarkable case study in how a company claws back trust after an actual literal fire hazard, and then few years later quietly folded the whole Note series into the S Ultra. The S21 Ultra picked up S Pen support and the Note line just stopped getting new phones. No dramatic announcement, no funeral. It just became the Ultra wearing a different jacket. In my opinion, I thought it's just a good move. Having two separate stylish flagships competing with each other internally never made much sense. Galaxy M. Here is where the things get regional. The M series is Samsung's budget and battery line. And unless you live in India or parts of the Southeast Asia, there is a decent chance you have genuinely never seen one in a store. The entire pitch is simple. Massive battery capacity. A lot of these ship with 6,000 milliampere hours or more, sometimes pushing higher at the expense of camera polish and premium build materials. Galaxy F. And this one has genuinely fun bit of trivia behind it that most people actually don't know. The F series looks and specs out almost identically to the M series. Same budget, battery formula, same general audience, but the F actually stands for Flipkart, the massive Indian e-commerce company, kind of like a Amazon equivalent over there. Samsung builds these specifically to sell exclusively through that one retailer. Oh yeah, that's essentially Samsung's running a private label budget phone through a single online store. The same way a supermarket has its own cheaper version of a brand name cereal, just with a different name slapped on nearly identical hardware underneath. Galaxy X cover. Then there is a series most people have genuinely never heard of unless they work in construction, healthcare, logistics, or some other jobs where dropping your phone off a ladder is a normal Tuesday. X-cover phones are Samsung's rugged line. Military grade, durability ratings, and a physical programmable buttons you can actually press with gloves on, and in several models, and honest to goodness removable battery, which at this point feel like discovering a fossil in the best possible way. Nobody's buying an X cover to impress anyone at the dinner party. They are built to survive being ran over by a forklift. And that's generally the entire pitch, start to finish. And that's every Samsung Galaxy series explained. If you found this useful, drop a like, and it actually helps more people to find this video. Comment below which series you like the most.